Hello, welcome to the Agrobusiness News, where the news meet you. My name is Rodrigo Ferreira, international trader and broker, and here we connect the business globally. From tractor parts to the glyphosate supply, shock intensifies uncertainties about the 22 and 23 crop. In addition to soy and corn, perennial crop as well as cotton and the sugarcane, we also suffer. Problems go far beyond the difficulties imposed by the pandemic and are already structural. Brazil suffers even more from more numerous inflationary components, from tractors parts to agrochemical products, pseudoid for the most basic raw materials of all kinds of problems of supply in various sectors, arising not only from the difficulties imposed by the coronavirus pandemic, but from structural problems that are worsening in the world at all, bringing serious warnings from 22-23 season in Brazil. They do not only suffer from crops such as soy and corn, but also sugarcane, for example, in addition to perennial such as coffee and fruits. And although warnings from the new crops are very severe and 21-22 crop, which is underway, also continues to suffer from problems with delays in deliveries or even lack of inputs. 95% of the glyphosate used in Brazil comes from China. It's accumulated an increase of more than 200 in the last 15 months in the international market, and is a classic case. There are already reports of not finding any more products available, and this is a basic product in Brazil. These problems are already immediate and felt in the summer harvest. The others will come for the second harvest: corn, beans, orange, sugarcane, coffee, all of each requiring inputs throughout the year, explained Carlos Cogo, the managing partner of Cogo Inteligência and Agribusiness. A good part of the problems experienced now is the input chain originates from the energy crisis observed in China at the moment. With the strong rise of all energy matrices as well as logistical costs installed around the world, which still does not present an apparent solution. Is it a chain reaction that's happening, says Kogo, who adds by saying that this moment creates strong and worrying uncertainties in the sector, in addition to forcing the change in the dynamics and the strategies of rural producers when the marketing their products. Maybe this was one of the factors that stopped the early soybean sales. We stopped at the quota of the crop sales and they didn't move forward. Of course, there are other factors, but now they can add more of that. In addition, it's also reinforced the need to monitor sales of the next corn crop in addition to these other crops. Many perennials in the views of the nebulosity about to the security of the supply of inputs for production amidst an initial resumption of the global economy. When we talk about the supply of raw materials against consumption of the final products, the paradox that now sets in the between China, the world's largest exporter of agrochemicals and the largest global consumer of foods, and the other ready-made products of raw materials for these productions, how to balance the two ends in the Asian itself, and how to do this without one balance the other position points in the world that are on the same circuit. This is the great question mark that remains in the world and for the Chinese. Today, Brazil is the largest distributor of food in general to China, a leader of beef, pork, chicken, and sugar export. In addition to cotton and tobacco, which are not food, just to name a large group of commodities, if they decided to make an interruption, such as a speculation about fertilizers, they compromise internal supply, which involves social tension, inflation. It's a game of chess, and they will have to know how to move the pieces, believe the analyst. In addition, Kogo also recalls that if Brazil were in fact even more compromised by the Chinese measures, China would become even more dependent of the markets such as Americans, European, which are insufficient to meet all of its demands from poultry. Talking about the Chinese consumption, all the problems China faces now, accounting for the corporate Evergrande and its debt crisis, the energy crisis, prospect for less intense growth, among others, bring some warning about Chinese consumption. However, it with different impacts of each group of commodities. They would hardly reduce imports of soy, bran, oil, rice, corn, wheat, but beef, which a higher add value, corn, coffee, cotton, this can suffer the impact of the increase in the cost, inflation, crisis, and they start to reduce its import of items that would not be of the first necessity. Pork is another example. Some commodities could be more impacted than the others, explained Carlos Kogo. So, where also is the crisis? There are points in Europe where supply is already a problem, as well in Asia, in addition to Brazil and China, where we are heading towards inflation in 12 months of more than 10%. The G12 group is around 4.5%. The Eurozone is around 3.5%. The OECD group is around 4%. And here in Brazil, there are other components such as the exchange rates, the weight of food, which in Brazil is greater than Europe. The water crisis, more expensive electricity, weaker, more fragile. And this combination is terrible, concludes the analyst. The text was by Carlos Mendes and the source of agricultural news. And again, thank you so much for being with us where the news meet you. My name is Rodrigo Ferreira, and here's we connect the business globally. Thank you so much and see you next time.